only 63% are choosing to get vaccinated. Imagine you have 10 people in an office, a little over 6 out of 10 of those people are going to have the vaccine. That means, roughly speaking, right? Roughly 4 out of 10. If you have 10 people in a room, 4 out of those 10 are not going to get the vaccine. And if you understand also that only 12% are going to agree to the testing regimen, that means 25% are non-compliant unless they change their minds. What does this mean? It means that a quarter of these government agencies could very soon be filled by National Guardsmen, members of the National Guard, which means if you have 100 employees in an office, 25 of those are going to be members of the National Guard. It's interesting. I don't know if this says a lot about the skills of the National Guard, or frankly, the lack of skills of the people they're hiring for these government agencies, maybe a bit of both. But typically, you would expect these government agencies to need people with specialized skills. Maybe they can find those in the National Guard. But it is an interesting thing that, well, what does this mean as well? Unlike normal employees for government, right? Normal employees, you can kind of choose a lot more carefully what you choose to, let's say, enforce, what you choose to do, or what you choose to not do. Whereas military typically has to follow orders. Now, these National Guards members are going to have to follow orders, and they're going to be specifically under the directives of the governors of these different states. There's, of course, some overlap with this. It used to be the case that the National Guard were almost like the state militias. They're technically the state armies. Those of you outside the U.S., it's important to note, the National Guard. So in America, of course, we have the federal military. You have essentially 2 militaries, one East Coast, one West Coast, and then several branches, of course. And then every state also has its own military. That is the National Guard. Because every state is basically like a little country in the United States. Every state functions like an independent country, but we have this additional government, the federal government, over it. Now, these National Guards troops typically have to answer to the governor, but under some of the different changes they made to the law, including on Afghanistan and so on, the war on terror, the federal government can actually now control the National Guard to an extent, which means you're going to have a lot more, in another regard, federal government control, possibly, over state governments and over essential services within states. This is a very strange development. The other side of this, I'm not saying there's any intention behind this, but the other side of it also is actually you have another interesting phenomenon, which is U.S. troops, including National Guards members, are sworn to do what? Uphold the Constitution and defend the nation against enemies, both foreign and domestic. And normally you would think that would mean that they could oppose things that they view as unconstitutional and enemies that they view as being enemies of the Constitution. The entire narrative around what is an enemy domestic, especially under, again, these new domestic terror laws that they're trying to form, has changed. And I've also been told by individuals within the military in the United States that they're being told directly now that it is no longer their role to interpret the Constitution.